everybody, welcome to FabFit Friday. I have another Raglan sleeve here to work on, a summer version, and I was really excited because I'm going to be doing a special talk or a special presentation for the next Stitches at Home in August. So I'll be teaching my Take Your Tea to the Max maxi dress class, but also I'll be doing a presentation on DIY closet and sustainability in terms of using or reusing garments to make something else. So sort of an upcycle, recycle kind of a talk showing how to use different garment finds, and then instead of just either giving them away or putting them in the Salvation Army bin, I'm going to be showing how to transform them into something else and what I've done with some of these things. Hi Mary, welcome. So today I got the brilliant idea that I would use one of the knitted tops that I had in my stash to cut out a part of my, a part of my new Raglan, and it was going along great until I was cutting it apart and I accidentally cut a hole right in the center of the back of the knitted top I was going to use to cut out my back of my Raglan. And I'm going to show you in a minute, but this is a rib knit, so being in a hurry, as I usually am, I did not take my time to sew a center back seam like I should have. So I'm going to show you what my center back seam looks like, and then I'll explain how maybe to get a better result on that. And I'm also going to show you my, what I have started here. Hi Diane, welcome. Okay, so today what I want to do, I'm going to show you guys how to do the kangaroo pocket, and I'm going to show you how to draw in a neckline that gets stretched out of shape because of the stretchiness of the fabric. So that's what we're going to do today. And I also put a short sleeve, so we'll finish the sleeves. Before I move on to that topic though, I just want to make my camera a little lower here. All right, and I want to show you, I did fix these armholes and they're nice now. Okay, so I don't have any bunchy like I did when I was trying it on last Friday. And what I did was I shortened my seams here. So I shortened 1/4 here and 3/4 of an inch here, the light blue sleeve part. I shortened it and sewed it back together, and that fixed my fitting issue. Hi, Chelvy. Chelvy, you don't have sound. Mary, Diane, can you guys hear me? My sound is working on my end. Hi, Sally. Welcome. Long time no see. Sally was in class with me last night. All right, so all right. Hi, Kenna. Welcome. Okay, so you're asking, do you have videos for how to do patterns for beginners? Most of my patterns include really detailed instructions, and I will tell you my yoga pants and this raglan sleeve top that I'm doing as a sew along right now also has a complete free class on my channel. So if you go to my playlists and look for like how to sew the Easy Fit and Sew yoga pants, for example, or how to sew the raglan sleeve, these two patterns I have a full-blown free class for that I think you'll find helpful if you're a beginner. Hi Netwear. Oh, okay, so Diane is confirming we have a good sound, and Sally can hear me too. Also, Kenya, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, I'm so sorry. I have a Facebook group that I just started up again, and there's a link to it, I believe, in the description of this video, and you can ask me questions and get help on your projects there as well. The reason why I started the Facebook group again is because it's more interactive. Like you can post pictures and ask me questions, whereas, you know, on YouTube here you can ask me questions and talk while we're live, and you can certainly post questions for videos that I upload, but it's hard to interact because you can't really post pictures. So that's why I started the Facebook group again. So I just want to get back to this for 1 second. The one weird thing about this is I finished the armhole with a binding at the base of the armhole, and then I sewed the sleeve to it. The join on that is a little funky. So I was looking at a ready-to-wear top I have that has a sort of a cap sleeve that doesn't get sewn into the base of the armhole. And the way they finished it was they actually turned the allowance to the inside and then top stitched it in place, kind of like this is here. And then when you go to join it with the sleeve, it lays better. So I don't have one prep to show you that, but instead of putting the binding so it shows like I did last week, you could actually sew the knit strip to it and pull it all the way inside like a facing, and then top stitch it kind of like how this is. So I may do a tutorial to show that in the future. I didn't cut another one of these out to show, but that is another option for finishing the base, you know, of the armhole, instead of having it be this little funky bit here that's not laying nicely. So that's the thing I wanted to talk about there. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Sally says, I love my new swim skirt so much that you slept in it. I love that. I'm really excited. I'll show you. I was teaching the skirt class last night, and what did I do with the skirt that I made? Of course, my skirt is boring. It's gray and black. What did I do with it? I don't know what I did with it. Oh, wait a minute. Found it. Okay, so this is the class I finished teaching yesterday. I did a new, like, this is my performance sports knit. So I did a black waistband and I did a gray skirt. But then there is some fun on the inside. I used my polka dot fabric for my shorts. So I have these cute little shorts underneath. So that's what I made. And I think I'm going to make some jazzy tops, right? So if I have a jazzy top, you need a solid bottom. So I am going to try to jazz myself up a little bit. All right, let's take a look at my mess that I'm working on right now. Okay, so here is what I did. This is my short sleeve raglan, and you can see that basically I just cut the sleeve short and I made a pattern piece that looks like this. Okay, so this is the pattern piece. So I made 1.5 inches, you know, underarm seams, and then I just curved it up, and I think I showed you how to do that last week. So I ended up with this sleeve pattern here. Okay, and I've already sewed it together because I did cover how to sew the sleeves on last week, and I sewed everything. This is one of my daughter's sweaters that she got a spot on it right above the original V-neck, so she wasn't wearing it anymore. So I decided I was going to take it and use it as to make a raglan. But here's where my trauma is. See in the back here, I have this seam, and basically because I was running out of time and I cut a hole in it, like, you know, as I was prepping for, you know, FabFit Friday, I didn't have time to really take my time to sew this center back seam. I may take it apart and sew it again. The trick to sewing a invisible seam in a rib knit is to make sure your edges are completely straight along the rib, and you would cut one of them so it's even with the purl row, and then you cut the other side so it's even with the knit row, so when you sew it together you don't have two knits or 2 purl stripes side by side. And this center back seam is just a mess because I just serged it together quick so I could finish putting it together to show you all the things I want to show you today. So I think I may take it apart later and fix it. But the other thing I want to explain is this is a much more open neckline. It's the same shape as the neckline I'm wearing here, but if I just slip it on over my raglan I have on now, you'll see how much bigger it is. Let me just switch my view here again. I'm use my sleeve as a mouse pad. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on over my, over the one I have on now, and I just want to show you how much it stretches. See how big and open this neckline is compared to the one I have on? Same opening. Okay, so this is something I want to show you how to draw this in with when I put the knit strip on. Hi Diane. Hi B-Gal. B-Gal says, when I was doing the line short cap sleeve, do we still sew the bottom and top, leaving the sides open? Sorry, I just joined. Okay, so I did not line this sleeve. Okay, but if you wanted to do a line cap sleeve, I would just sew the bottom edge and leave the seams at the, here in the back and the neckline. Now the neckline you could finish as well if you want to do it like I did this one, or you can leave it raw and you can finish the whole thing with a knit strip, so that's up to you. But I definitely would finish the bottom edge with the lining. So I probably would finish the bottom edge with the lining and then finish the whole neckline and the double layers with the binding, I think. But I mean, you could do it either way. All right, so this knit really grows because it's a rib knit. So I'm going to show you how to draw that in. And then I also started working on the kangaroo pocket. I'll just fix this here, make it a little bit higher. Here we go. All right. Okay, so let me take this back off, and I'm gonna change my view here again. All right, so let's look at this. So now that you see I've got the yucky center back seam, which I wouldn't have needed that, but if you missed it when I first started talking about this at the beginning, I cut a hole in the middle of the shirt when I was taking it apart. So one of the things you really want to be careful with is if you're using something else, like a ready-to-wear top, or even a top that you've made previously that you're not wearing, make sure when you cut it apart you don't cut something you didn't mean to, because that's what happened to me. Alright, so I'm going to put this aside for now. The first thing we're going to work on is the kangaroo pocket, and I've cut out my kangaroo pocket, and if you notice, the rib knit is now going sideways, and that's because in order to get it out of that original ready-to-wear top, I had to cut the sleeve and put the kangaroo pocket sideways on the sleeve to get it to fit. And I think it'll be interesting to have some rib going sideways and some rib going vertically on the front. It'll just make it a little bit interesting. So you can see here I've already finished one of the openings of the kangaroo pocket with a wide knit strip finish. Okay, that's how it looks on the inside. So I'm going to show you how to do this on the sewing machine. And to do it, I started out with a 3-inch strip of knit that I cut on the bias. So what I'm going to do, I drag my sewing machine over here, and then I'm going to, let me get this so it's a better angle here. Hold on. Bring this down. Okay, I'm going to get this so it's better. Okay. Alright, something like that I think will be better to see. Okay. Maybe let me put the fabric on here. I just want to make sure it's not too bright. I feel like that's a little bit bright. Let me, oops, make it a little darker so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this is the opening right here, okay, from here to here. I'm just going to start on this end over here. I'm going to take my knit strip. What do I do with the knit strip? I have all these scraps and I keep confusing it with, what did I do with my knit strip? I just had, oh, it fell on the floor. Okay, so I'm going to take my knit strip and I'm going to lay it right sides together with my opening. And I'm going to sew this at a 3/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm just lining it up here, and just to get myself started, I'm just going to use a single wonder clip here. So I'm just going to clip it one time, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to line up my edge with the 3/4 inch seam allowance. So up here is where my 3/4 inch is. And I'm going to just sew this using my my sewing machine, and I'm just going to use the standard, just the standard stitch. It's 2.5 millimeters long. I'm going to back tack there, and I'm just going to carefully go around. And as I go around, I'm going to gently stretch the knit strip a little bit. I'm not going to stretch the kangaroo pocket. I just want to make sure that those openings don't gap out when I'm wearing it. So I'm just going to stitch along, and like I said, as I'm stitching, I'm stretching this a little bit. And I'm trying to keep it at 3/4 of an inch. Okay. I'm almost done with that. All right. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let's look at what we have here. Here's how it looks. I'm going to make me a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap the 3-inch strip around to the back, and I'm going to pin it, and I'm going to pin it in the, in the ditch. And I want to make sure that I'm wrapping it kind of firmly around the opening. If you don't wrap it firmly, it could ripple and wrinkle a little bit. So I'm really just, I'm wrapping it pretty firmly, like this. Okay, all the way to the end, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on the back side. So let me just zero in here now so you can see what I did. Okay, so see how I pinned it right in the ditch like that. On the opposite side, you can see I pinned it, and notice my pins are kind of an equal distance away from the raw edge of the knit strip. That means that I consistently wrapped it around evenly and firmly around the edge. Okay, so now I'm going to drag my machine back over. I think I'm going to move my face over to this side over here, so it's kind of out of the way. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew this using the same straight stitch here. I'm going to start right up at the top, and I'm stitching on the kangaroo pocket, not on the knit strip. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch really close to the knit strip, but just, right along that, right along the space between, or right next to the seam on the kangaroo pocket side of things. Taking my pins out as I come to them. take a look at it now. All right, so there we have, oops, you know, a nicely finished, you know, opening, and I'm gonna cut my knit strips to match the top and bottom of my, well, my side edges and my top edges here. All right, so there's my kangaroo pocket finished. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my view up a little bit higher so it's easier to see here. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, so let me get my shirt back over here. Now, if you're doing this for yourself, like after you've tested the fit of your raglan, it's easier to put the kangaroo pocket on the front before you sew it together with the back. But mine's already sewn together, so I'm going to do my best here. All right, so here is my front, and let me just push my machine back a little bit farther here. I'm going to make a little bit more room. Okay. All right, so get that to be like a good view. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I should have marked my center front because we want to put the kangaroo pocket center it. So because I didn't mark it, I'm just going to find the center by matching up my side seams and just pinning where that center is. And the cool thing is, because it's a rib knit, once I have it at the hem, I can follow it up. All right, so here is my center, where this pin is right here. I'll put a wonder clip so you can really see center. Now, if I were making this, and just, let's say I was just making this a shirt and I didn't want to add anything to the hem, this is the finished edge of the original sweater, and you can see how nice it is. Let me show you. See how nice that is? Like, that would be a perfect edging if you wanted to use that for, you know, match up your pattern with the original finished edge of your sweater. And actually, to get that, what I did was I folded the curved edge of my hem up so it was straight, so I could lay it straight across on the bottom edge of the sweater. Okay, so I did that, but in doing that, it's a little bit too short for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a dark gray band at the bottom to finish off the bottom edge, and also to finish off the bottom edge of the kangaroo pocket. So what we're going to do here is I'm gonna lay this on, and I'm going to lay it on. I'm going to find the center of my kangaroo pocket. I'm going to fold that in half too. So I know my center is right here. Let me see here. Right here. I'm just going to put a wonder clip at the center. Okay, so there's that. So I know it's going to go like this. So see, I think it's kind of interesting to have the rib knit going in two different directions here. Okay, so I'm just going to oh wait, that's backwards. Let's make sure it's right side up for a second. Okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the top edge first. So I'm just going to line this up so the raw edge of the pocket is even with the raw edge, or the actual finished edge of the front at this point. And my sides are matching. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take chalk, and I'm just going to mark where the top edge is. So I'm literally just going to trace along this top edge with this chalk here. Can you see it? Of course we can't. All right, hold on. I have a piece of blue I can use. All right, so I'm just going to mark it with this blue chalk. That's not really working either, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mark it with some pins. So I'm basically just marking the raw edge, where the raw edge is, with some pins. I just want to know where that sits. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to I'm going to overlap the pins by like 1/4 of an inch here, and then I'm going to sew it down, and then I'm going to flip it into place. So basically I'm just going to repin it, but now I don't want to pin the back, so I'm going to repin it so it's basically just overlapping the first row of pins by just a little bit, like 1/4 of an inch. And now as I pin, I'm pinning it just to the front. I'm not pinning it to the back, so we're going to sew it. All right, and before we actually sew it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it back down to make sure it's going to work out. Okay, so let's flip it back down. Okay, so you can see after I sew that, it's going to still match up at the bottom. Okay, so we're going to sew this part on the sewing machine. I can take out these clips now. So let me get my sewing machine back over here. And let me just see if I can just make it big like that. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm not sewing my back. I'm going to turn this inside out, because then what I can do is I could come in and I can sew on the inside. So basically I'm going to be like this. I'm going to get under my presser foot. Of course I have my pins going in the wrong direction. So let me just get this lined up here. All right, and I just want to make sure, I'm going to check to make sure, now that I've got this here like this, I'm just going to measure, I'm just going to do a quick measurement from one of my pins that stayed. That measures like 8 3/4, so I'm just going to make sure it's 8 3/4 up at this edge too. Just want to make sure nothing slipped. This has to come down a little bit. My first pin fell out, so I'm just making sure when I sew it, it's correct here. So 8 3/4 would be about there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am just going to sew really close to the edge, and I'm going to try to follow the rib of it. So I want to catch it. I think I'm going to go into this second rib. I think it'll be okay. I'm going to start right here. I know it's a little bit farther than 1/4 inch, but I want to get a nice top, you know, a nice finished look to the top. All right, so I'm going to sew this like this. I'm going to back tack at the beginning. And then see, I'm just following this rib right here, so it doesn't look crooked once it's sewn on. And then I'm just going to do a double check to make sure I'm still 8 3/4 inches. Yeah, so that's still good. All right, I just want to make sure I'm sewing straight across. Now I'm using the walking foot feature on my Janome 67P, 6700P. That really helps not push the fabric. It helps feed both layers of fabric really nicely. Okay. All right, so we sewed that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it down. Let's just flip it down so you can see what I have here. Okay. Let's make it bigger so you can see. Okay, so I'm going to flip it down. And we're going to top stitch along that edge. And I don't really necessarily need pins, but I'm just going to pin it so it stays put for me. So literally I'm just pinning through the top of the kangaroo pocket and the front of the raglan sleeve here. You know, just so it stays nice. And I'm putting my pins in the right direction this time. Okay, so this will sort of secure and support the top of the pocket. So again, I'm going to slide it underneath the presser foot like this. Okay, and I'm literally just going to stitch maybe, you know, 1/8 of an inch away. Take my pins out as I go. Careful you're not sewing through both your front and back layer. See, because when I get to the end here, I want to sew this down so my seam allowance the allowance underneath stays hidden. Okay. All right. So let's look at this now. Okay, so there's the top of my kangaroo pocket, and I'll just make it a little lighter so you can see. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I am going to turn each edge. Okay, so the little edge here, the little side edges, we have to finish those as well. And really all I'm going to do here is I'm going to just turn it under, I want to say like a 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to pin it in place. So we are going to just sew those, and I'm going to be coming in from it like this. So I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to put my pins in a way where they're easy for me to get to. So basically I'm just going to pin the folded under part like this. Okay, so there is one. Let me do the other one over here. You know, and obviously we want to make sure that the pocket is laying nice across. So again, I'm just going to turn this under a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to pin it. I mean, if you like this kangaroo pocket style, you can really put it on any of your knit tops. You don't have to use it for the raglan sleeve. But I just think it makes a fun, interesting, you know, detail, kind of sporty. All right, so now that those are pinned, I'm going to drag my machine back over. Maybe get it a little, oops, a little darker here. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to just sew right along the fold, you know, maybe 1/8 of an inch in from that folded edge. Get my first pin out of there. Okay. All right, so I am just gonna back tack there. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the other side. See how that looks. Basically, it's just sewed on, right? So I'm gonna come over here and do this one now. So now I've got my the ends of my kangaroo pocket sewed on. Let's look at it finished here. Okay, so here's my pocket. And again, let me lighten it up. Oops. There should be a link underneath these FabFit Friday videos for the Kangaroo Pocket. It's in my online store. It's free. It's a free add-on for the Raglan sleeve top. But again, remember, you can use it on any, you know, on any knit top. It's sized too, so you can pick up the size that will fit across the, you know, your front. But it is a free little pattern, and I think there's a link to it under the video. All right, so I've got this little, you know, this is open here, obviously, because this is not finished yet. And normally I might baste here, but I think that this is behaving really nicely, so I'm not going to bother basting it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my gray fabric. You know, and the one thing I did not cut out was the band for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hopefully have enough fabric to cut out a band. I think I will. I've used this knit for a lot of different things, but I think we're done with the sewing machine, so I'm going to put the sewing machine away. Oh, one thing about the pattern piece, okay, wait a minute, let me just move this out of the way, hold on. So one thing about the pattern piece, and I don't know why this is happening, but when I printed out a new version for myself, the curved lines were a little fudged up. See, they have like a funny angle to them. So see how there's orange and it's a little bit funky? So I just took my ruler and smoothed it out, and I think I showed that during the last Fit Tip Tuesday. But this is, I mean, on FabFit Friday. But this is what the pattern piece looks like. Okay, so you want to cut out your size. You cut it on the fold. Okay. All right, so I'm going to hopefully have enough to cut out a band to fit along the bottom edge of my top. And of course I cut on the bias, so that this bias line right here really took up a lot of fabric. So see how it's like bias right there? So what I'm going to do, I think, is I might actually have to have a seam, You know what, I'm gonna cut it so I have, I'll probably have to piece it together for the side seams here, because I don't think I can make a long enough, I don't think I have one that's long enough to go all the way across. So I'm just gonna cut, I'm gonna cut two and sew them together at the side seams. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'm really using like some of my, you know, ends of things here. So let me just get my ruler. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut out first. I'm going to even up this edge. Okay, then I'm going to cut, now I'm going to double it for a band. So let's make it 5 inches. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, let's make it 6 inches. I'm going to make it 6 inches. Okay, so here's one. And then let me see if I have enough to cut out another. Oh, look at that. I don't have enough to do 6 inches again. Ugh, that's all right. I can cut it over here. I got this fabric in New York, and I've used it for a number of different projects, so I'm getting to the end of my little yardage here. So we'll just cut it over here. It'll be okay. Alright, so I'm just going to cut, making sure that's all nice and straight. Alright, so I'm going to cut it here. Right here. I'm going to cut it here. And then I'm going to cut a 6-inch piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these two pieces and I'm going to lay my shirt down here. All right, so there's my hem edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my two pieces right underneath, and I'm going to have them stick out like a seam allowance worth, because I'm going to have to sew them together. Okay, so there's one. And then let me just lay this one right on top of it. That way I'll cut them the same. I think using a knit band to finish the bottom edge of a knit top is a nice, easy finish. Alright, so I'm going to just extend it on both. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut it so it's 3/8 of an inch bigger. And then I'm going to sew my side seams. So there I have that side. And then I'm going to cut it over here a little bit bigger, just a little bit. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to get my serger over here. Okay. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom in. Oh, I'm sorry, Diane, you can't see. Sorry about that. Alright, so I'm going to try to sew like this. I'm sewing at a weird angle for me, but I think I'll be able to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to sew my short ends together, which are going to be my side seams basically. So I'm just going to sew these two together. And then I'm going to sew the opposite ends together. You'll be very excited to know that I already cut the knit strips to finish the neckline. So that at least is ready to go. So as soon as we do this, I'm going to show you how to make that neckline more manageable. Okay. Alright, so now I've got my knit strip sewn into a circle. I'm going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, like this. And just to make it a little bit easier to work with, I'm just going to pin together my side seam edges, and then I'm going to find the center front and center back, and I'm going to pin those too. Alright, so I've got a pin here, I've got a pin here. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half again so the pins are matching, like this. So if these are my side seams, then the center on this side will be my center front or back, and then the other side will be the other center. But this gives me a chance to like manage this knit strip. So I want to get it so it's I want to get it so it's everything's nice and even, so when I attach it to the shirt, you know, I don't have to fight then. So basically I'm just getting this to lay nice now. I'm going to just pin the center here. So right here. Diane had emailed me about the the double fusible tape that I recommend in one of my patterns, I think. And since then I've changed preferences. I prefer now So Keezy's double-sided fusible tape, and you can get it from, I know my friend Gail Yellen sells it on her website. Gail Patrice Design, or Gail Patrice Design. So if you go to her website, you can get the double fusible that I like a little bit better than the other one that I recommended, which is now escaping my mind. Alright, so I'm just getting this, oh, alright, so you'll see when I pinned this one, I pinned it so the edges weren't even. That's why I'm fighting with it. Alright, I'm going to take this, cut those off, pin that back, and then I'll be able to pin these edges together. This is a relatively thin knit, so it's a little bit fussy. And I think it'll be nice as a double, you know, double layered band here. Okay. I'm just going to get all that to agree. Alright, so I'm just getting that edges, and I'm just marking my center here. Alright, so now what I can do is I can take my shirt that I have here, and I am going to put my side seams, I'm going to lay it with the fold face up around this shirt here, and I'm going to pin together the side seams. And I have a funny little thing going on here. I'm just going to cut that square. And I'm going to pin the side seams together over here. And then I'm going to pin the side seams together over here. And again, I'm just going to trim off this little funky thing I have. Alright, so I'm just going to match that up. And you can offset your seams, so you can put the shirt seam allowances going in one and the other going the other way. Oh, LA Designs. Yes, and that is not bad fusible. If you have it, that is nice fusible. I just like the Sokezi one better. I think it's a little bit softer and thinner. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to match up the two edges of the band with the two edges of the kangaroo pocket and the front. So I'm just going to make sure I have those pinned. So I'm going to use a bunch of clips here. So I want to make sure all of these edges are even. Diane used, okay, so Diane is talking about the fabric I got from LA Finch Fabric. It's a tencel knit that's like a leftover from Eileen Fisher. It is so nice. And here's a tip for you. If you put it in the dryer to fluff it up after it's in the washing machine and it comes out a little bit wrinkled, I hung mine on my dress form, and by the time I was ready to put it on my body, all the wrinkles had fallen out. So it's really a nice fabric. And you cut yours 2 inches too short. Oh, you cut out from the hem up to 2 inches. Yeah. Well, this band idea will definitely save your day. I really like the way these bands look. So I'm just pinning together all the layers now. And I'm just starting with the front where I have 4 layers, because I have the bottom of the kangaroo pocket, and then I also have, you know, obviously the front of the shirt. So I just want to make sure I keep everything nice and even here. And then I'll just pin it to the back. That will be easier because I only have the 3 layers. I've got to say, I think this is the most pinning I've ever done on an edge. But like I said, I want to make sure all the edges are even across the front. Okay, and now I'm just going to flip it over and do the back. Okay, so now I'm going to do the back. And it should fit like 1-to-1. If you want to have it draw in a little bit, like a, you know, sweatshirt bands draw in, you can cut it a little bit smaller, but I want it to hang straight. I don't want it to come in. I want it to look kind of boxy. Yeah, see, the back is easier to do because we're only dealing with three areas, or 3 edges. Alright, so now I can go back to the serger and sew this on, and then, good news, our hem will be finished, and then I'm going to show you how to do the neckline. I have bad news. Next Friday, I am teaching from 11 to 1 o'clock. It's a 2-hour class. I'm teaching, what am I teaching? I have it right here. I am teaching my flat lock skirt. Okay, so this, it's sort of a sweatshirt inspired skirt. I basically stole it from Vogue magazine. But the entire skirt is made with the flat lock stitch. And then the hem is a reverse flat lock, not so blind hem. So I am teaching this with twin and needles from 11 to 1 next week, and I think I'm going to just skip FabFit Friday because I don't know if I'll be running late, and I'm just not sure what's going to happen. So I won't have FabFit Friday next week. If you want to join me for this fun class, there's only a few people in it, so if you want to dive deep into how to use your flat lock decoratively to construct an entire garment, you can join me for this class. And the pattern is free with the class. All right, so I'll put a link to this class underneath the comments when I'm done, but that's what I'll be doing next Friday. Or, yes, Friday. And then Saturday I'm teaching my tank top class for Fabric Mart. I'm going to have a busy weekend next week. All right, so now that I've got this all pinned, I'm just checking to make sure I didn't fold over any of my edges. We're going to go back to the serger. Let me see here. Kieran says, I'm using a soft rayon knit. Should I use some stay tape on the seams attaching the sleeves to the body? Oh, Diane, that's right. All right, wait a minute. Let me answer Kieran first. Okay, so if it's really soft rayon, if you want to put a little knit stay tape, you know, along the shirt, like right here. But what I would do is do a test. Cut 2 pieces on the diagonal of scrap, fuse it to the shirt side of it, and then see how it is. I wouldn't just do it on your shirt until you test it, because sometimes when you fuse stay tape onto a knit, it then prevents it from stretching and it could affect the fit. So I would test it on a scrap to see if it's still, soft and malleable or whatever. But you could add some stabilizer there, but I would test it first. And then Diane just corrected me. I am teaching tank top 2 ways, 11 to 3 on Friday. Then I'm teaching that skirt on Saturday from 11 to 1. So I screwed up the days, I'm sorry. Yes, so I will be doing tank top. All right, let me start by a side seam. So I'm gonna start right here. And I have the shirt against the feed dogs because it's that really stretchy rib knit. So I wanna make sure that, gets eased in. So I am just going to start stitching through all of these layers. And as I go, I'm just going to double check that I'm catching everything here. Okay, I'm going across the front first. So again, I want to make sure I'm catching the kangaroo pocket and the bottom edge of the raglan. I just want to make sure everything is matching up. My sister has starting to call me up in the morning, and the first thing she says to me when she calls me on Fridays is, FabFit Friday! FabFit Friday! She's not a sewer, but she thinks that's funny that I call it FabFit Friday. All right, let me just finish this here. Okay. All right. All right, so I'm done with the kangaroo pocket, so now I just have 3 layers to worry about. But again, I'm just going to sort of double check as I go to make sure everything is staying nice and put. The one thing I will say about all of these knits I'm using, and I'm super lucky, none of them are rolling. Okay, so if you have edges that roll, one way that you can minimize the rolling or the curling is by not stretching it. Okay, if you stretch a cut edge and it's susceptible to rolling, it'll roll or curl more if you stretch it. Okay. Oh, I'm at the center back now. Alright, so I'm at my start point. I'm going to cut off my tail, put my knife down, overlap my stitching a little bit, then I'm going to lift up the presser foot, lift up my needles, push everything back off from under the needles, and then put my presser foot down and chain off. So you can see that makes a really nice stop-start point instead of just veering off the edge. And as I was serging, I noticed I sort of flew off the edge here, so I'm just going to go back and show you. When I was talking, I wasn't paying attention. So see how my loops are hanging off the edge here? And also right here. See? So I'm just going to serge those areas again so I catch everything, or make sure it's all nice and caught. There we go. Okay. All right, let's see how this looks. All right, so we have oh yeah, I'm happy with this. Wow, that looks gigantic. This fits me nice and loosely. I didn't want a snug raglan, so it looks like it's gigantic. But see how nice that is? That makes a nice, easy finish on the bottom of the raglan. It catches the pocket and it's hemmed, so yay. Okay, so Lauren wants to know what the name of the tape is. It's So Keezy, and the packaging looks like this. This is some stay tape, but you can also get the double fusible. I think the double fusible might be a green paper, but it's really, really nice and thin. And so you can get knit stay tape, which has a little bit of stretch to it. You can get double-sided fusible to turn up hems. And it comes in some other colors. It's got like, you know, natural black and white, I think. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, let's work on the top. So I finished the bottom. Let's now look at this top here. Every time I look at this center back seam, I am so sad that I cut into this knit by accident. Ugh. All right, so this neckline is really stretching out of shape because of the rib knit. So what I'm going to do here is I have a knit strip ready to go, and to make it more closed, I'm going to fold a 2-inch strip in half. I'm going to serge it and then flip it up so it's going to look like that. Okay, so it's going to give me, you know, a little more than a 1/2 inch of extra coverage, just by the fact that I'm sewing a knit strip to it and letting it fold out. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work in sections here. So we're going to start with the front, and it's hard to see because I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. I'm going to cut my end so it's straight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here at the seam where the shoulder, you know, the sleeve and the neckline starts, and I'm really going to pull it. So normally I just, you know, I pull it a little bit. I'm going to pull it more than usual, and I'm following along the raw edge here. So what I'm doing is I'm deciding the length of my knit strip by stretching it around the actual neckline. And like I said, I'm stretching it more than I normally would. All right, when I get to this seam, I'm going to just open it up so I can do the shoulder flat here. Now I don't want to stretch it, okay, but I want to be able to get an accurate edge to check. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just stretch it through the shoulder. Because I really want to close this neckline up a little bit. All right, and then when I get to this opposite seam here, I'm going to then flip it so I can do the back neckline. Okay, so here's my back neckline. So again, I'm going to start here. And I'm going to stretch it across the back. My daughter said when I tried this on before FabFit Friday started, she said my back neckline looked like I had a cowl neck because it was dipping down because it was so loose and stretched out. So I'm really going to stretch it across the back to draw it in. And then we're just going to do this opposite shoulder. So again, like I said, I'm really stretching it. Okay, so there is my total length, and I'll add the seam allowance onto this end because I really stretched it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew this knit strip into a circle. So I'm unfolding it, and I'm just going to serge this together here. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to, like I did with everything else, I'm going to find my center point here. So this is going to be one end. Over here is the halfway point. So I'm just going to put a pin at the halfway point for now. Okay, so I've got my two halves here. And then I'm going to join them together to find my quarters. So 1/4 here, and 1/4 is here. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the quarters of my neckline. And what I want to do here is, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to start, okay, so here is my back. This seam right here is the back armhole. I'm going to start here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap these two together. So I'm wrapping the shoulder to the back neckline, and then I'm just going to keep going, wrapping the front to the back here, or matching them together, I guess. I'm walking them together so I could find the halfway point from that shoulder seam to wherever it is. It's going to be somewhere on the front neckline. Okay, so I went across the other sleeve. Okay, so the halfway point is going to be right here. So now I know I can pin my knit strip so the seam is lining up with this shoulder. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see. All right, so let me just lay it here so you can see what I did. Just lay it flat. Okay, so I basically walked the edges together from this back shoulder seam. This is the back, and I just walked them along until I came to the middle of the way is over here. Okay, so from here, across, like if I folded it in half this way, it would be right here. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hold those together. Put those together like this. So the seam with that area where my, where the halfway point is, and I'm going to find my quarters. So this way it doesn't matter if it's a sleeve edge or a neckline edge. I'm just finding the quarters of the entire neckline here, and that'll make it easy to match up my knit band. Alright, so now I'm going to put one here, so that's one of my quarters. And now I'm going to go in this opposite direction over here. And in the opposite direction, it's actually on the sleeve a little bit. So now I have my quarters matched up on my neckline. So let me just open this back up so you can see what I'm doing. I feel like every time I touch this, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so I've got all of my key areas, each quarter. So you can see I've got the 2 red clips here, this clip here. So now I'm going to take my knit strip, I'm going to fold it in half, like this. And I'm going to put it right, it's going to be right sides together. So first I'm just going to clip it together into a circle just to make it manageable. So I'm just going to fold it in half and clip both the edges together. And then I'm going to pin this onto the neckline. So I'm going to start with this edge right here where the seam is. That's going to go on this back seam between the sleeve and the neckline. The shirt, the back sleeve and back armhole here. So I'm going to clip those together. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to clip these 2 together. Then I'm going to come around, and I'm making sure I'm not twisting it as I go here. I'm going to pin this one with this one. Get rid of one of my pins, and then pin them together. And then I'm going to match this last one with this last quarter. Alright, so now I know I've got my stretched out knit strip is evenly distributed. So you can see there's a fair amount that we're going to need to fit in there, but I really want to be able to draw this neckline in. So you can see across the back where it was hanging down my neck like a cowl. This is the center back right here. You can see when I pull this, it's gonna pull it back in. Okay, so to help me do that, I'm gonna turn my shirt inside out so I can put the shirt against the feed dogs. So we're gonna start near that shoulder seam. Maybe right in front of it. So I'm going to get my serger back over here. It's a little bit too light now. Let me just make it a little darker here. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right in front of that back shoulder, or, where the armhole and the back sleeve get sewn on. And I'm just going to line that up, all 3 layers, underneath my presser foot. Oops. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get as close to the pin as I can. I'm going to move my first pin. I'm going to make sure I cut all my tails. Okay, so basically now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch from pin to pin to pin. Okay, so here's my first pin for my first quarter here. So I want to make sure I'm stretching the knit strip to match my neckline. Now, so as I go, I'm easing in the neckline into this knit strip, and the feed dogs are going to help me do that. So when I get to my second quarter, again, I'm going to make sure I'm stretching it to match and sort of catching it in the middle. So I stretch it evenly across the whole quarter. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of this quarter. I'm going to get my next quarter lined up. And the feed dogs are helping to feed that in. That's why I put the shirt against the feed dog. Okay, I'm on my last quarter now. Okay, so again, I'm going to cut off my tail, put my knife down, overlap, lift my needles, lift my presser foot, and I'm going to pull it out of the way and chain off. All right. So let's take a look at what we have. This is kind of exciting. The only thing left I have to do is finish the armholes. All right, so we can see that this is already, I can already see it's much more closed up than it was. And I think I'm going to have to press this a little bit. But I think what I'll do is, why don't I just put it on so we can see how it lays on me now. I showed you how it looked before I finished it. Let's see if it's more agreeable to, you know, be a flattering neckline. Let me switch my angle here. All right, so let me just put this down a little bit. All right, so we can see that this is much better. I mean, it's still a little bit big, but I think the back, tell me if the back is laying flat. Is the back laying flat across there? Because before it looked like I had a cowl neck back there. Let me know. So I can't see, but I think that that's a much nicer neckline now that it's finished. Okay, I mean, it's obviously more open than the, you know, the one I have on underneath, but I think that that's going to be pretty nice. All right. So that's, all right. I'm going to just go over here, put this back over here. All right, so I think I'm happy with that. Let me take off this other shirt. Hold on. Okay, hold on one second. I'm just going to take off my other shirt and put this one on. by itself so we can really see what it's doing. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right, yeah, I think that that's going to be good. I mean, it's obviously more open than it was. And I think right here it's a little bit wider. Might have to play with that, but I'm pretty happy with it now. And then in the back, I think it's laying nice and straight across my back neck now. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Oh, my differential feed was set at 1.3. Let me just stand up so you can see the bottom part of it. Okay, so here's what the bottom part of it looks like with the, you know, with the kangaroo pocket. Isn't that cute? Yeah, so I'm very pleased with this. Okay, so that's my second summer version, and this is actually a, you know, a salvage or whatchamajigger, a you know, recycle reuse project because I used my daughter's shirt. So I'm very happy with this. So all I have left to do is finish the armholes, and I think I'm going to use the same gray, and I'm going to sew it to the edge and flip it all the way to the inside like a facing. So that's how I'm going to finish the armholes. And I think what I'll do is, if anybody wants to stay and watch me finish the armhole, you're welcome to do that. I know we're already at an hour and a half, so if you have to go, I completely understand that. But I'm gonna just continue to sew this, because if I don't finish it, I don't think it'll get finished, because that's what happens. So I'm gonna take this back off, and I'm gonna come back and show you how to finish the sleeve edge with a knit strip, but I'm going to turn the whole thing to the inside instead of having it show. So let me just take this off. I'll be right back. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to do like a down and dirty kind of thing. I'm not going to stretch to measure. So this is a little bit different. And like I said, I really understand if you have to go. I don't want to monopolize your entire Friday. But since I'm on here, I'm going to keep on going. All right, so I'm going to turn my shirt. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. Here's one of my sleeves. Okay, this is the edge of my sleeve. I'm going to take the knit strip, and this is a 2-inch strip. It's going to be way too wide. I'll trim it to match after I sew it on the sewing machine. But basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut it straight, the edge. Okay. Then I'm going to put it right near, this is the underarm seam right here. Okay, so see, my underarm seam is right here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay my knit strip right on it, like this, and I'm going to serge all the way around. Okay, so I'm just going to start right here. I'm going to get it so that knit strip is like practically under the needles. Okay, and then as I sew, I'm going to gently stretch the knit strip, but just a little bit. Oh, bye knitwear. Have a nice weekend. All right, so I'm just going to start serging this. And like I said, as I go around, I'm just going to stretch it gently. Not a lot like I did the neckline, but just a little bit. Okay, so I know it's the same fabric, so it's hard to see, but basically I'm just stretching the knit strip as I sew around the hem of the sleeve. Okay, I'm coming around to my start point here. So what I'm going to do is, you can see my start point right there. I'm going to just cut my knit strip so it's about a ½ inch past that. Well, I'm not going to cut it yet. Let me just keep going here. I'm going to keep stretching. I think in the beginning I was kind of off the sleeve, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap that a little bit, trim this off right here. Alright, and then I'm going to cut this where it's overlapping. I'll have enough to finish the other sleeve there. Oops, I'm going to put my knife down, just overlap a little bit. Alright, so see what I did was, here's my, let me make it a little bit brighter so you can see. Okay, so see, that's where I stopped. So you can see the overlap. I'm basically now going to turn the whole thing to the inside like that. But before I do that, let me just do the second sleeve, because the second part has to be done on the sewing machine. So let me just quickly go around the second sleeve here. So again, I'm going to take my knit strip. I'm going to start right in front of my underarm seam here. Let me get that under there. So it's right next to, okay. And again, I'm going to stretch it as I go. I'm not stretching the sleeve, I'm just stretching the strip. And I'm not stretching it as much as the neckline. I know I said that before, but sometimes if you're trying to control something, you have to really stretch it. This is just gentle. Okay, we're coming to the beginning again. Okay, so this time, here's my tail. I'm going to cut it right here. And then I'm just going to, once I overlap, I'm going to put my knife down. Okay. Alright, so now let me, Alright, so now let me show you the next step. My sleeve here. Okay, so here's my sleeve. Let me turn this right side out now. Okay, so here's my sleeve. Okay, so you can see the knit strip. I'm literally, and here's where I start and stop. See how I've overlapped it a good amount. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to turn the whole thing to the inside like this. And I'm going to clip it. And I really like my Wonder Clips for this. Okay, so I'm just rolling the whole thing to the underside. And I've got that serge seam, you know, to really, to really push up against here. Hi, Jerry. All right, let me just stop here. Hi, Claude. Joining a little late. just in time for neckband, do you cut the strip along the width of the fabric? In this case, I cut it on the bias, but when I did the this strip, I cut it across the width where I could. So this is the band that finishes the bottom. But when I did the neckband, I did it on the bias. You can see the diagonal grain, I think. Hi, Jerry. Thank you for coming. I'm just finishing up these sleeves, so I'll have a second summer Raglan top here in shades of gray. So my younger daughter, Abby, told me that if you wear, like, one day she had on gray sweats, so she had gray sweatpants on and a gray sweatshirt, but they were a slightly different color gray. She told me that when you wear different grays all at once, and that's your only color, it's called a grout fit. So maybe I can find another third gray. Oh, my gray yoga pants. When I go watch her play volleyball, I'll have this top on with my gray yoga pants, and she'll be like, Mom, you have a grout fit on. That's funny. All right, so I'm just pinning it all the way around here. Okay, and then I'm going to sew it on the sewing machine. Okay, so see, I've pinned it all the way around. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin the other one. I might as well just do them both at once. I think we're going for the record here. This is going to be the longest Fab Fit Friday on record, I think. But I have a lot of things to do, and I know if I drop this project and don't finish it, it's not going to get finished. So I think I'm just going to finish it. However, like I said, if you have to go, I totally understand. See, cutting this on the bias, I don't know if you can see it, but my shirt is on grain, so the ribs are up and down, and then this, oh, I'm not doing it the right way here. I'm supposed to be doing it all the way to the inside. So, but if I wanted to have it show, see how that diagonal lines show on the binding? Oh, maybe I like that better. Actually, you know what? I think I like that better, to wrap it around like that versus doing that. I can change my mind, right? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to wrap it around and not turn it to the inside. I'm changing my mind. I'll fix the other one and sew it off camera. I don't want to torture you. Okay, so in this case, I'm just wrapping the knit strip around the serge seam. I started doing it like that by accident, and then I realized I like the way that looks, so I'm going to switch. You can see how that looks? And again, because we're working with a knit, notice I have these raw edges here. Like that little raw start-stop point. No one's going to see that. Oh, Mary says I like it with that little edge showing. I do too, so I'm just going to switch my mind. So I'll just do the other one later. I'll just, as soon as I get off, I'll repin it and do it. So I'm just going to show you how to sew this, and then we'll be done. I'm very flexible with things. Like if I start doing something one way and then I don't like it, or if I notice or try a second thing and I like it better, I will be very happy to switch. Very flexible that way. All right, so this is all pinned. I'm going to get my sewing machine over here. I'm just going to push my serger way out of the way. Alright, so I got my sewing machine here, and I am going to use, because I'm sewing it on the sewing machine, and because I'm sewing it on the sewing machine and you know, it's stretched, what I'm going to do is I'm just very quickly going to wind a bobbin and put Ceraflex thread in my machine, because then I won't have to worry about stretching it. I just have a little bit of gray left on this bobbin. I'm going to take this little thread out here. Oops. All right, wait a minute. All right, so I don't know if I've told you. I think I've mentioned Ceraflex thread a few times now. It's really nice because it's got just a little bit of stretch, and then I don't have to worry about popping stitches on my sleeve. So the first thing I'm going to do, show you here, let's back up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to wind a bobbin. Oops, make it a little less. Okay, so just so you can see, I'm just going to wind it a little bit because I only need enough to go around the 2 armholes. Oops. My thread came out of the tension. Oh, wait a minute. I have a mess here now. All right, I'm going to start that over. Because the thread has a little elasticity to it, sometimes it can get funked up in the tension disc when you're winding a bobbin. Let me try that again. All right, let's try that one more time. I want to make sure that is in there right. All right, like I said, I really don't need a full bobbin, so I'm just going to do just a little bit more. I think that's plenty. All right, so now I'm going to stick this in here. And I'm going to thread my machine. I do have a stretch needle in my machine, which is recommended with this Ceraflex thread. And, you know, just in case you were wondering or you haven't seen this before, because if you're new, let me just show you here. The Ceraflex thread, I'm going to hold it firmly in my fingers. Watch. See how it stretches? So that's going to give my my finish to my sleeve just a little bit of give. Alright, so I'm just going to thread this. I'm going to put this back on. Alright, here we go. So now we're going to sew these. And I'm going to sew inside the circle, so I have to turn it inside out again. Oh, Diane wants to know where we can buy Ceraflex thread. You know what? I was talking about it last night in class, and I think Walmart was one of the places where you could get it online. And I am going to start carrying it. I keep forgetting to order it, but I'm going to carry some basic colors because I really, really like it. But, I mean, if you want to get it. And if you Google it, too, it'll come up places. Try createforless.com. They might have it. I know they have the Eloflex. They might also have Ceraflex. Okay, so now I'm just going to stitch this. And I'm stitching just off the binding. Move my needle over a little bit. Alright, so actually, the fact that we're not meeting next week is actually a good thing, because I have to decide what our next topic's going to be. If anybody has any suggestions for our next sew along, please post them in the comments below, and I will add it to my list of things we could possibly do. Okay. All right, so I am just stitching along here. You know, the nice thing is I don't need to stretch it because the Ceraflex thread is going to stretch. Alright, and again, you know, you want to make sure that your knit strip is laying flat on the underside too. Alright, I'm almost to my start point. You cannot sew full blast with this thread. You have to go slow. Alright, here's my start point, so I'm just like 2 inches to go. I'm just going to back tack there. Excellent. Alright, so let's look at that. See, I think that's a nice finish. Alright, so of course now I'll have to cut my extra knit. So that's the last thing I showed you, and then I'm gonna sign off here. But basically, you can start where your join is, because it's an edge, right? So I'm just gonna use my big scissors, and I'm just gonna cut close to the edge. I'm a big scissor fan when it comes to trimming away stuff. I think it's harder for the blade to actually cut something it shouldn't. Yes, I am pleased with this. So I did mention earlier, there is a whole class on how to sew the raglan sleeve top, just the basic one, start to finish, on my channel. It's in a playlist, so if you want more information about sewing the raglan, definitely check that out. Okay. Almost done here. Alright, so I'm sad I'm not going to be with you on Friday, but if you would like to join me for my Tank Top 2 Ways class with Fabric Mart Fabrics, I will put the link to that in the video below. And I'll also put the Twin and Needle class there too, if anyone wants to join me on Saturday. My last 2 classes of July. It's been a busy week. I mean, a busy month. I've taught a lot of classes this month. Alright, so now I'm just going to finish cutting this off. Alright, I'm going to have to go back and neat in a few places, but basically, let's look at it from the right side. Oh yeah, I'm very happy with that. That looks nice. Alright, so there is the finished sleeve. Oh, Jerry, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate everybody who follows along with me. And I really look forward to my Fridays. One interesting thing I'm noticing when my shirt is laying flat, this wider strip is looking all gnarly, like it looks like it's twisting. But when it's stretched on my body, it smooths out. And I think that's because I really stretched it to fit on this neckline. So, um, but you know, just knowing that it looks fine when it's on, you know, and then I have my little finish to my sleeve here. Okay, so that would be an almost finished top. I'm gonna get off and redo this one myself. I'm gonna repin it. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Um, I'm hoping to watch my daughter play volleyball tomorrow. I'm going to be honest with you. Last Sunday, I was super excited because I thought I was going to get to see her play, and then they canceled it because of rain. So I didn't get to watch her last weekend. So I might be able to watch her play beach volleyball tomorrow, which would be super exciting. So that's what I'm hoping to do tomorrow. I hope you guys have wonderful plans, a wonderful weekend. Everybody, please stay safe. Um, on Tuesday, I will have a Fit Tip Tuesday for you, and I'll remind everybody that there is no FabFit Friday again. And I'm almost ready to post another Embroidery Sunday. So I may get it done for this weekend, or it might be next Sunday. But it's going to be a poppy floral design that I'm making into a pillow. So that's what I'm going to be working on in the background with my embroidery. Oh, Pat, thank you. Oh yes, Pat says thank you for this fun sew along. Yes, this does mark the end of the Raglan sleeve sew along too. So if you have any additional questions about the Raglan sleeve, please post them and I will help you. And certainly, if you're joining my group, J Stern Designs Fit Sew Embroider, please post your projects in there as well, and you can go there and ask questions, and I will help you, and we can sort of interact with each other, and inspire each other too. So please feel free to jump over there and post your projects and your pictures, and if you need help with something, post your questions, I will help you. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you again soon.